Sri Gurubhyo Namaha. Welcome to our Kashmir Cultural Heritage Online series. Today is our 59th week. We are continuing with Sri Krishen Kemmu on his presentation Kashmir, the Changing Dynamics. Before that, let's get started with the prayer. Today's prayer is going to be by Lalita Kalyanasundram. Lalita Kalyanasundram is a daughter of Kamakshi Kalyanasundram. Lalita has been a part of YouTube channel Jagati Kriti and sung Subramanya Bhujangam and Bilvashtakam. She also learns violin from Sri Rahul. And Lalita is in 3rd grade. Welcome to you, Lalita. Please go ahead.
தாரமற்கொன்றையும் ஷண்பகமாலையும் சாத்தும் தில்லை ஊழற்கம்பாகத்து உமை மைந்தனே உலகேழும் பெற்ற சீரவிராமி அந்தாதி எப்போதும் என் சிந்தையுள்ளே காரமர்மேனி கணபதியே நிற்க கட்டுரையே சென்னியது உன் பொன் திருவடித் தாமரை சிந்தையுள்ளே மன்னியது உன் திரு மந்திரம் சிந்துர வண்ண பெண்ணே முன்னிய நின்னடியாருடன் கூடி முறை முறையே பண்ணியது என்று முந்தன் பரமகம பதவியே.
Thank you, Lalita ji. It was really wonderful. We are very happy that you are joining us during Navratri and hope to see you again in our series. Will you join us again?
Yeah, thank you.
So next time, whenever you want to join, just call me. We will just give you a slot. Thank you. That was really wonderful rendition by Lalita Kalyanasundram. Lalita's mother has appeared quite a few times in our series and she will continue to be with us for future prayer rendition. As always, we thank Sri Kanchi Mutt for our ongoing Kashmir series and offer our namaskarams to His Holiness Sri Shankara Vijayendra Saraswati Swamigal. We continue our series with his blessings. And today we have Sri Krishen Kemmu, who made a wonderful presentation with so many slides. And we decided we'll continue. Also, we had some hacking going on at the time. So hopefully this time we will have more question and answer series after he completes. Krishen ji, I think this is where we left last time, if I remember right, pre-1990.
Yes, something like, yes, somewhere. Yes, pre-1990, yes.
And it went on so well, and unfortunately we had to cut short. So please take over and continue that presentation. We will ask questions.
Yes. Thank you very much, Mr. Shankar. And first of all, let me wish God bless little Lalita Kalyanasundram for her wonderful rendition. Little only by age, not by talent. Wonderful singing. And yes,
really
thanks
very
again
nice.
to Kanchi Kamakoti Seva Asam Foundation and Madhyama Dharma Samajam for this wonderful series on Kashmir. It's doing a wonderful job creating awareness all over the globe. So I will go back to, yes, this was the this is where we were, right? Pre-1990.
Yeah, this is the one. You want to continue with this, or
I'll
you'll start
I'll
with
I'll I'll quickly
bring your
recap in a minute or two what we did last, or what we have done so far, and then we'll
right.
move on with this. History so far, we touched ancient history of Kashmir. We touched various stages of changes that happened in Kashmir historically. The ancient history, then the Hindu period up to 13th century, 14th century, I think exactly 1343 AD, when the reigns of Kashmir changed from Hindu kings over to the Sultanate Kashmir. Before that, we looked at the Hindu period when we had looked at ancient temples, the glorious temples, some of them, including Sharda Peetham and Marth and Sun Temple, the Shankaracharya Hill Temple, and the Kheer Bhavani, and the various other ancient temples which are lying in ruins. We also touched upon the glory of King Lalita Aditya and the golden period of the Utpala dynasty, Avanti Varman and Shankar Varman, and then the gradual decline. And then we moved over to the Sultanate Kashmir period, which was from 1343 to 1586 AD, the beginning of the Muslim Islamic rule or the Muslim rule, which was followed by another period of Muslim rule, different under Mughals, the Mughal period, which lasted from 1586 to 1752 AD, and then the worst of all, the Pathan rule from 1752 to 1819 AD. After this, that was there was a reign of the Sikh kingdom under Maharaja Ranjit Singh, and then last of all the the Dogra rule, and then happened partition in 1947, and then from 47 onwards, it was part of free India, independent India. And we also touched the six exoduses that happened under different foreign rulers during this time. So from 47 to 1990, we were on that journey, and when we stopped at pre 1990. So we'll move on from here. In the pre 1990 period, we talk about 1982 when Sheikh Abdullah died and Farooq Abdullah became the chief minister. Then in 1984, what happened is there was a accord between Indian National Congress and GM Shah, who was part of Farooq Abdullah's government and also his brother-in-law. And as a result, Farooq Abdullah was replaced by GM Shah, and his rule lasted from between 84 to 86, his chief ministership. In 1986, Rajiv Gandhi became the prime minister, and there was a Rajiv Farooq Accord, or rather a political alliance. And immediately after this, there was emergence of a new political force in Kashmir called Muslim United Front (MUF), and it started with agitation in some parts of Kashmir for allowing beef in the state, which was till then banned. Then there were some anti-Hindu riots in Anantnag and Baramulla districts. Looting, arson, and temples were targeted. In 1987, the National Conference and Indian National Congress won the election, and Muslim United Front, which had become a political force and was gaining some strength, they lost. They were defeated. But it was alleged that these elections had been managed through large-scale rigging. Around the same time, Pakistan in the mid 80s initiated Operation Topak, which involved low level insurgency in the beginning to be followed by high level insurgency, and the target was liberation of Kashmir. As a part of this, they started terrorist camps in the POK, Muzaffarabad, and other places. Now, because of elections of 1987, there was large scale discontentment within the public, and this was exploited by agents from across the border to sow seeds of rebellion. Volunteers were influenced to cross the border, get trained, radicalized, and they returned with arms, ammunition, money, and as terrorists. And this is how the terrorist activities started towards the late 80s. I have changed the slide. Please confirm if it is changing on the screen. Mr. Shankar
It's
is
pre 1990 now.
yes, background.
Okay.
The,
Okay.
Okay, now just we look at pre 1990 with the background, what was happening in Pakistan and other parts of the world. You see, first of all, we need to understand that there has been a Ghazwa-e Hind, which is part of an Islamic doctrine about conquering India. It has been the unfinished agenda of Islamic conquer, because India still doesn't remain hasn't become part of the Islamic world. Now, this has been a doctrine all along, and it used to, if I remember right, I mean, I there was a law article I had read somewhere, either late 70s or 80s, in the India Today magazine, which talked about many countries getting together under the leadership of Saudi Arabia and through Pakistan targeting India, and the first weak spot identified in India was Kashmir as part of this Islamization drive. Now, at the same time, Pakistan and ISI had a strategy of bleeding India by thousand cuts. This was in the form of an ideological war, a hybrid war. Now, what was happening in Soviet Union? It was during this time, just before before the 90s, the Soviet Union withdrew from Afghanistan during 88 to 89, and this withdrawal was sold to these potential terrorists as a victory of jihad, victory of mujahideen, victory of jihad. Thereafter, what happened is the Soviet Union got dissolved, or it sort of broke away into different countries: Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Ukraine, Tajikistan, and some of them became Islamic states. Another point which was projected to the Mujahideen as the victory of Islam. In the same period, the Berlin Wall fell in 1989, and the merger of East and West Germany was again used to sow the seeds of possible merger of Kashmir with Pakistan or POK. Now, there were surplus trained mujahideen and terror in Pakistan, which was meant for Afghanistan. And now that Afghanistan had been freed from Soviet Union, this terror infrastructure was diverted from Afghanistan towards Kashmir. Now, one may just recap that the Kashmir problem, as it has been referred to all along, never related to the whole of Jammu and Kashmir state. It always was essentially a Kashmir Valley centric issue. Jammu, which had a Hindu majority population, and Ladakh, a Buddhist majority region, never had any problem. Now, again, we continue pre 1990, there were stray incidents of blasts, small fire. These occurred in the late 80s, but there was no action, no inquiries, no arrests. One can say the government was a mute spectator. In the year 1988-89, we must also look at there was a weak government at the center. Immediately after the scandals, I think that was probably Bofors. There had been Bofors scandal, and after Bofors scandal, there was a lot of confusion at the center, and the governments kept changing. You had Mr. VP Singh as the Prime Minister and Mufti Mohammad Saeed of Kashmir as the Home Minister. This period gave a boost to terrorism, primarily because of the weakness of the center. Now, in short, if one looks at this situation that time, point number one, there was disenchanted local population. Point number two, there was ready availability of terrorists in Pakistan, and this was in thousands. The central government in India was very weak. The global environment was favorable to the strategy which Pakistan wanted to enforce. And as a result, it was a perfect opportunity for Pakistan. What happened? The genocide day, the January 1990. This day shall go down as the darkest day in the history of Kashmir and Kashmiri Pandits in particular. It left deepest scars in the collective psyche of Kashmiri Pandits. A campaign of mayhem, terror, and torture was unleashed on this small community. The Pandits were perceived as a thorn in the Pakistan agenda. Therefore, Kashmir had to be cleared of Pandits. As a result, Raliu, Galiu, Ya Chaliu, which is the same slogan which had happened many years back, centuries back during the time of Sikandar Butchikan, meaning convert, die, or leave, was back on the agenda and conveyed through posters, loudspeakers, and telephone calls. Systematic campaign of assassinations and intimidation was unleashed. This day has often been referred to as the KP Exodus Day, or the Day of Ethnic Cleansing, or in simple terms, the Genocide Day. And this was the seventh exodus of Hindus from Kashmir. Now the question arises, the other six exodus that had happened before had all happened under the foreign rule. This exodus, the seventh one, happened in a free, democratic, and a secular India. How was it allowed to happen? Why did it happen? Still remains unanswered. Was it the incompetence of the government, or was the government a hand in glove? In other words, a conspiracy. has still not investigated and still not answered. We move on. What happened? What post 1990? During 1990, the president's rule was enforced in J&K. There were prolonged periods of coalitions and indecisive governments at the center. I think the whole of 90s was a period of weak governments, indecisive governments, and as a result, the terrorist incursions from across the border were at their peak. Between 89 and 1997, six prime ministers changed in India. Period of weak governments, as I said. Now, terrorist organizations, Jammu and Kashmir Liberation Front, Hizbul Mujahideen, Lashkar-e-Taiba, Harkatul Mujahideen, and Jaish-e-Mohammed, they mushroomed in Kashmir. Harkati, Harkatul Jihad Islami and Harkatul Mujahideen had initially been started in Pakistan in the 80s and were focused on Afghanistan. Now they were merged into Harkatul Ansar and shifted to Kashmir. Hizbul Mujahideen was already the youth wing of Jamaatul Islami and was created for Kashmir. The funding was coming from Saudi Arabia and ISI at the time. When we go beyond 1991, 91 appeared to be apparently there appeared some improvement. Government of India started Lahore bus service, but then it was followed by Kargil war. In the late 90s, if we look at Pakistan had large armies meaning tens of thousands of mujahideen, comprising Afghan war veterans, Taliban operatives, and madrasa trained and radicalized jihadis available for deployment into Kashmir Valley. We also saw the politics of the fake narratives. What some of these, it was the then Governor Jagmohan who was responsible for the exodus of Pandits. The Indian army doing the killings and blaming it on the movement meaning the terrorists. The Hindus had garnered all the jobs, and that's what caused Muslim terrorism. The election of 1987 was rigged. Hence, people resorted to militancy as they lost hope of a fair government. All these are fake narratives, none within not even an iota of truth, because none of them made ever sense. Because Mr. Jagmohan was still in Jammu when the exodus happened. The killings were done by terrorists in Indian army fatigues, and then they used to blame it on army. The Hindus garnered all jobs. Another untruth, because the political situation had been going on for quite some time. The migration of Hindus on a smaller scale had been happening right from 47 to 1990, as they were gradually getting marginalized. Besides, and if one looks at jobs for a change, and there is the whole trade and commerce, none of the Hindus were in trade and commerce. If the election of 1987 was rigged, so were elections in many states during that time. One used to always hear about Bihar and Bengal elections rigged, but these didn't cause any terrorism. So these were all fake narratives. It was a political activity. Then beyond 1990, there were many massacres. I will quickly refer to some the major ones. On 21st March 1997, there was Sangrampura massacre, where seven Hindu villagers of the village of Sangrampura in Badgam district were massacred. In 1998, 25th January, Vandahama, 26 Kashmiri Hindus living in the village of Vandahama, Gandharbal district were killed. The gunmen came to their houses dressed as Indian army soldiers. Then 17 April 98, Prankot massacre. 26 Hindus killed in the villages of Prankot and Dakikot in Udhampur district when they refused to convert Islam and eat beef. 26 people, including women and children, were beheaded. No bullets were fired. The villagers were just butchered. 19 June 1998, Chapnari massacre. 25 Hindu villagers massacred in Chapnari, Dora district. The victims were accompanying two marriage parties when they were attacked. 20th March 2000, Chitti Singhpura massacre, when 35 villagers of the Sikh faith were massacred in the Chitti Singhpura village of Anantnag district on the eve of US President Bill Clinton's state visit to India. Then 1st and 2nd August 2000, there was the Amarnath Yatra massacre, when 89, as per official count, people were killed, and as per PTI 105, 62 injured in 5 different coordinated attacks by terrorists in the districts of Anantnag and Dora Yatra. Doda districts of Kashmir Valley on people who were on their way to join Amarnath Yatra. 3rd August 2001, Kishtwar massacre. 17 Hindus killed in a village near Kishtwar, Doda district. 10 militants had swooped on the village, dragged 20 males belonging to Hindu community out of their houses, and taken to adjacent rocky mountain belt and shot dead. 5 villagers were wounded. 13th July 2002, Kasim Nagar massacre. 29 Hindu laborers in Kasim Nagar on the outskirts of Jammu were massacred. 23rd March 2003, Nandi Marg. Jihadis entered Nandi Marg village near Shopian in Pulwama district, dragged the Kashmiri Pandits out from their homes, lined them up, and shot them dead. At least 24 Hindus, including 11 women and 2 children, were killed. 30th April was the Doda in 2006, the Doda massacre. 35 Hindu civilians massacred in 2 separate attacks. In the first 22 22 Hindu villages were lined up and then gunned down by terrorists in Thawa village in Kulhan district of Doda district. The victims included a 3-year-old girl. In the second attack, the neighboring village in Basantgarh area of Udhampur district, 35 Hindus were kidnapped and shot dead in the same day. We go beyond 2000, 2001, there was the attack on J&K Assembly, followed by attack on Indian Parliament. 2004 to 2006 appeared to be normal again, but in 2008, what happened was the most dastardly 26/11 terror attack. Then 2010, one saw a new life to militancy in the form of stone pelting. In 2016, Burhan Wani, who had emerged as a local terrorist and a hero, was killed and in an encounter, and Pakistan declared his death as a martyr's day. 2016 to 2019 were unstable again, and in 2019 there was a dramatic change. As we all know now, Article 370 was abolished, 35A article was also gone, Ladakh was separated, and Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir, J&K, became a union territory under governor's rule. The new map of J&K and Ladakh post October 1, 2019. Jammu and Kashmir, one union territory, and Ladakh another. Some look at part of Pakistan lobbying, internationalism, and the human rights angle which were raised during this period, 2016 onwards. You see, we need to look at the role of deep state in Pakistan, which is Pakistan Army Chief and ISI Chief. Deep state meaning state within state. Their task was to create a misinformation campaign and a cyber warfare, where they had specialized people doing this task. Pakistan policy had always been India-centric and Kashmir-specific. For a moment, think if there was no Kashmir issue, the Pakistan army would become irrelevant. So it has been in their interest all through to keep Kashmir issue alive. Their budgets, their allocation, and depends on the Kashmir issue. We go back to 2015-16. Indian government cancelled registration of 868 NGOs, tightened FCRA, Foreign Currency Regulation Act rules. As a result, the NGO funding dropped from 17,773 crores to 6,499 crores. On October 3, 2016, Pakistan Senate published a report on engaging global lobbying groups and reactivating all firms to change the global narrative on Kashmir against India. In other words, working on the fault lines which existed within India. Now, there is this in part of information which I've shared in this slide and a few slides next. It comes from Kashmir INC, a conflict industry, an OSINT dossier by Disinfolab dated August 21. It's available one does a Google search, it's available there, and the details are on YouTube also. One can access it. It's in detail about these activities. Continuing with this internationalization of the Kashmir issue, the human rights angle at the Pakistan lobbying, the number of human rights champions popped up in USA and UK, critical of India. This was suddenly some names: World Kashmir Freedom Movement, Justice Foundation, Justice for All, Stand with Kashmir, Mercy International, World Kashmir Awareness Forum, and Friends of Kashmir. Source: the same document, a dossier by Disinfolab. Plethora of companies were set up in UK and USA in the name of Kashmir from 2015 to 16 onwards. 6 new organizations were set up between 16 and 19 by just one person, Muzammil Ayub Thakur. Who's he? He's the son of Muhammad Ayub Thakur. Muhammad Ayub Thakur was a professor in Srinagar, suspended in 70s for anti-national activities. From there, he moved to Saudi Arabia. He was there in university for some time, and then from there, he moved to UK. He was the founder of Jamaat Tulba, student wing of Jamaat Islami in 1974 in Kashmir. And he's known to have channelized funds from ISI to terrorists in Kashmir. Interesting connection, he was a close friend of Ghulam Nabi Fai. Ghulam Nabi Fai, as you all might know, was arrested in UK as being a Pakistani spy. Originally from Badgam in Kashmir, he had studied in Aligarh Muslim University and then gone to Makkah University in Saudi Arabia and then from there to USA. He was arrested as an ISI link in USA. Now both Ghulam Nabi Fai and Muhammad Ayub Thakur had been based in USA before they went to UK or USA. Another associate of theirs, Muhammad Abdullah Siddiqui in USA, was the one who founded SIMI in 1974. All of them collected funds for zakat, social issues, and natural calamities in various organizations and routed these to Indian lobbyists, USA and Europe, and terror organizations in Kashmir. Source: same dossier by Disinfolab. A quick slide from there, Disinfolab, about evolution of propaganda warfare. 1977, student wing of Jamaat Islami formed in Kashmir. Ayub Thakur appointed president. Student wing of Jamaat Islami SIMI found in India, and Ahmadullah Siddiqui appointed as president. Ghulam Nabi Fai moved to Saudi Arabia. Abdul Malik Mujahid appointed as head of Jamaat Islami student wing of Pakistan. ICNA, Jamaat's overseas organizational, formally formed in United States of America, and JKLF, Jammu Kashmir Liberation Front, formed in Birmingham, UK. This is all in 77. In 1990, Ayub Thakur founded World Kashmir Freedom Movement in UK. Ghulam Nabi Fai formed Kashmir American Council in US. Abdul Malik Mujahid founded Sound Vision under ICNA. I think ICNA full form is International Council of North America, Islamic Council of North America. Hizbul Mujahideen formed as militant branch of Jamaat Islami, later on banned. All parties Hurriyat Conference was formed, all in 90s. Beyond, we go 2016 onwards, Ghulam Nabi Fai back into seminar circuit as founder of World Kashmir Awareness Forum. Muzammil Ayub Thakur revived two of his father's organizations, that is Justice Foundation and World Kashmir Freedom Movement. Free Kashmir, Kashmir Action launched by Abdul Malik Mujahid, and Justice for Kashmir was formed, which later was renamed as Stand with Kashmir. Some connections, networks of these, you can see Pakistan Embassy on the left, then Friends of Kashmir, then Masood Khan, and even on the right you see the picture of the person of Khalistan Front. Then various connections, various organizations interlinked, how they were connected and networked, including Sikh for Justice, which was connected to Kashmir militancy at some time. Various, if you see the organization, Friends of Kashmir, Houston Protest Organizer, International Humanitarian Foundation, and the people connected with these. Now, there's one slide which I've taken from, again, same Disinfolab, which shows Kashmir conflict is a family business, as most of these organizations were earlier headed by a gentleman and now it has passed to the next generation. And all these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cases of handling of this lobbying against India and Kashmir from one generation to another generation. Ayub Thakur to Muhammad Ayub Thakur, Ghulam Nabi Mir to Ayman Mir, Akram Dar to Ajaz Dar, Yusuf Fazli to Samira Fazli, Tony Ashai to Sehla Ashai, Ghulam Shafi to Shaista Shafi. Same thing, another slide, Generation 2 and their networks and new companies which they've started. Justice Foundation, World Kashmir Freedom Movement, US Administration, Chinar International, Kashmir Law and Justice Project, and various people. I'm quickly running through these slides. Don't want to spend much time. These are so. If you look at anti-India lobbying propaganda, which was the other division of one, there were some focused on Kashmir, some focused on India. So, Justice for All, Islamic Center for North America, ICNA, Sound Vision, Helping Hand, and three key players: Abdul Malik Mujahid, a Pakistani citizen; Dr. Shade Mohammad Ubaid, originally from Hyderabad; and Ahmadullah Siddiqui, Simi, founder of Simi, and their connections. You can see three key people: Abdul Malik Mujahid, Ahmadullah Siddiqui, and a number of organizations which were floated to create this lobbying. Ghulam Nabi 5, you see at the bottom, Justice for All, Sound Vision, Islamic Center of North America, IAMC, Burma Task Force. Some of them were just changed from one name to other, and you can see some of the Indian speakers also enrolled in these seminars. There was seminar circuit: Stand with Kashmir, Free Kashmir. But from 2000 onwards, if we look at the Kashmir problem was within the value. As we have already said, no issues in Ladakh, Jammu. Now, as far as Kashmiri Pandits were concerned, they were educated, they reorganized, they resettled, but as on today, they are scattered all across the globe. So, what happened? As a community, they suffered a loss of address, loss of language, loss of culture. Now, it's very important for any community, the culture to be preserved at any cost. Disconnection with the roots, in simple words, loss of identity. You must have seen Kashmir Files movie, which created awareness about the genocide of Kashmiri Pandits around the world. There was a campaign that this movie is a propaganda movie. I can completely throw that argument into the dustbin because I've seen the movie and I can say vouch that everything in the movie was based on facts. In fact, the producers of the movie had met people, recorded their interviews, and the movie was based on that. For I think for 3 or 4 years, they did lots of interviews. They had come to our trust here, met people who had migrated after 90, and recorded their versions, and these were all converted into the movie. So to say it was propaganda is a completely a baseless statement. Now we come to, so what's happening now? Having all this having happened, I would say the current status of the J&K Union Territory, it's a union territory in transition. It's transitioning from the old norm to the new norm. In the old norm, there was Article 370, which is now done and dusted. Article 370 could have been removed in 1972 after the war of 1971, or even in 94 when there was a political consensus in the parliament and all parties got together and declared the entire J&K is a part of India. But still, they did not remove Article 70 then. Because the problem with 370, it's not that the 370 is a solution to everything, but 370 was a breeding ground for separatist vision. The political parties in Kashmir exploited 370 to create these issues. It also helped Pakistan in the proxy war. We are now in a union of in the era of union territory, the era of governors rule. The old politicians have become irrelevant, but the new leaders are yet to emerge. In in simple words, I would say it's work in progress. It's a progress because the new leaders have to emerge. The young leaders have to come forward. The era of state subject, which was a document which confined many, which stuck to many rules, and people lost it. I mean, if for even for women who got married outside Kashmir would not have the rights to buy property there, that has been replaced by the domicile act. Many people who had given up hope of ever going back are now thinking of returning. The migrants, the Kashmiri Pandit migrants, about a number between 5 and 6,000 have already joined in the valley under the Prime Minister's package and are working there. Now, some elements in the state in this union territory of Jammu and Kashmir still perceive a threat in this changed scenario, a threat to their job opportunity, because before this normalization, sort of normalization, all the jobs were for them. Now people are coming from outside and are eligible for jobs, so there is a threat perception. Threat. Similarly, there's a threat of losing business tenders to those from out of the state or out of J&K. Threat that the property that had been appropriated or bought at throwaway prices may be lost, and the threat of demographic changes. The jihadi elements, the jihadi mindset, and the jihadi infrastructure still exist. There exists some sympathizers in the bureaucracy too. The tourists are back and are welcome. Economy is thriving. Normalcy seems to have returned again. But one needs to be careful, because in the past also we have had periods of apparent normalcy, but one incident can trigger the whole thing again. Infrastructure is getting developed on a fast pace. Economically, the progress which Jammu and Kashmir is now witnessing is something that has never been witnessed in the past, as far as infrastructure is concerned. The encounters and terrorist killings continue to happen, but they seem to have no impact on the normal life. The new narrative in the valley after the Kashmir files was again a narrative, was that things had become normal but have worsened after the release of Kashmir files. I don't know why this narrative, because people hadn't even seen the movie. There were no cinema halls there. Now, the gun culture is deeply entrenched in the valley. The arms and ammunition that was brought in from across the border in the 90s seem to have spread far and wide. The other problem is that the present generation, has grown up with the power of gun, either of the terrorist or of the army man. So they see gun as a powerful instrument. This psychology needs to change. The number of terrorists has come down drastically. It continues to decline, but the random and targeted killings still happen. And the killings happen due to some killings. These killings happen due to various reasons. Some are personal rivalries, some are business rivalries, but some are still part of the jihadist mindset. The present terrorist campaign seems leaderless and directionless, but there are reports at the same time of some fresh recruitments taking place. We look at course correction that is required. As I said earlier, the thrill and fascination of the gun needs to be driven out of the psyche of the youth. Kashmiri youth need to be provided role models in the fields of academics, sports, winter sports, civil services, literature, arts and art forms, journalism, etc. That work is alternative to the empowerment of the gun. We need to enable and ensure course correction in the jihadi mindsets which have been cultivated over a long time. De-radicalization. The terror ecosystem, that is nexus of politics, media, NGOs, lawyers, bankers, intellectuals, etc. This needs to be demolished. In all these fields, a lot has been done, but a lot still needs to be done. Again, work in progress. The madrasa education system, which in Pakistan also we have seen was the root cause of radicalization and the breeding of terrorism. But there it was done with the purpose of Afghanistan in mind. Here in Kashmir, it had no place. So this madrasa education system needs to be modernized. It is a breeding ground for terrorists. The armed forces are doing a wonderful job, not only in neutralizing the terrorists, but also bringing the masses into the mainstream. But we can't leave this all to the armed forces. We need to upgrade the police architecture. The police architecture, and police has to take a lot of burden from this. Then we need to seek, expose, and arrest OGWs, which are overground workers, the new part of terrorist infrastructure, and their connections within the local bureaucracy. Some more steps of highlight the aboriginal characteristic of Kashmiri culture. We need to promote heroism of Lalitaditya, the greatest king from Kashmir, his reign. Promote Shaivism, spirituality of the Kashmir, the Rishi order. Kashmir was known as Rishwar, the garden of the saints. That needs to be revived. That was the strength of Kashmir. That's why spiritual vibes and spirituality is essential. But still, unless justice needs to be done, judicial inquiry into the causes of genocide, has not been done still. Conspiracy, if any, needs to be exposed. Perpetrators of crimes of the 90s have not been punished. Protection and restoration of Hindu shrines, it's being done, a work in progress, but still a lot to be done. Similarly, protection of Hindu properties, those who had left behind their properties, how will they go back? Minority status of Kashmiri Pandits, a political tool. A museum to highlight the genocide of 1990s and other exoduses of Hindus. This is required to become a part of history, and the purpose is to prevent similar situations happening anywhere in future. Government of India needs to and the government of the union needs to ensure return of Kashmiri Pandits. Demographic changes are required for the good of Kashmir. Pluralistic and cosmopolitan culture will do wonders. The scenario has drastically improved from that of the 90s, but the absolute normalcy is still a long way off. The just quoting here data from Consulate General India of Johannesburg about improved security scenario in Kashmir. If you look at law and order incidents in between 2016 to 2019, there were 3,600, and from 19 to 20, 3 years again, just 438. Civilians killed in law and order situations between 16 and 19, 124, 19 and 22 nil. Security forces, police killed in law and order incidents, earlier 6, now nil. Terror incidents have come down from 930 to 617. Security forces, police killed in terror incidents from 290 to 174. Civilians killed in terror incidents from 191 to 110. It's improving. In simple words, it's improving, but it is still some distance before one can say it's absolute normal. I'm putting here on the screen pictures from the Independence Day celebration of this year, 15th August. You can see various places. The boat in the Dal Lake, individual residences, the governor marching on the Boulevard Road, all signs of improvement. Schools, colleges, people making tricolor national flags and hoisting on the Republic on the Independence Day, and even you see the tricolor outside Hurriyat conference, which was once upon a time anti-India body. So with that, I think I come to the end of this slide. Thank you very much. I'm closing my note on optimism because having gone through lots, as I said, towards the end, things are improving. We can't say it's normal, absolutely normal, but we are approaching normalcy. It's work in progress. It may take some time because things are changing on the ground, but what is still to be achieved is the change in the hearts and minds. And that, in my opinion, is going to take some years. Thank you very much. Yes, over to you, Mr. Shankar.
Thank you, Krishen ji. It was very well done and nice presentation. I thought I'll post one question. Was Pakistan the major country to evacuate Kashmiri Pandits that time, and the weak government not taking stern action? Obviously, right?
Yes, absolutely right. You see, Pakistan was the initiator. There were terrorists infiltrated from Pakistan, of Afghanistan, of different countries, which were pushed into Kashmir, and then they instigated the population of Kashmir. But at the same time, there was weak government which didn't do anything, because you see the symptoms of this were visible from much earlier, 5 6 years before it actually happened. So if the government of the day had taken proper action that time, this could have been prevented. But again, because I think even before 90, from I think 85 86 onwards, if corrective actions had been taken, this could have been prevented. There are reports. I think the police commissioner of the day has gone on record saying the first batch of terrorists, when they came back from Pakistan, they were apprehended, all of them, 60 or 65 of them, but the state government ordered them to be released, and that was the batch which created mayhem afterwards. So it was the state government, which I have said perhaps one needs to investigate in detail. It perhaps was a conspiracy. There was some involvement of people from the state, and at the center there was incompetence. The governments were weak, coalition governments, indecisive, didn't take any action. They would go one step forward, two steps backward, and the result was chaos. The Pakistan did this. They had a task. They had planned. They did that. They did whatever they wanted to do, but we could have, from our side, prevented it. See, today, how come things are happening? Today, for a change, we have a strong government at the center, which is taking strong steps. They are taking counter measures. Therefore, things are moving the direction. For the first time in the last couple of years, one sees it's the Indian army which is on the front foot and the terrorists are on the back foot. As a result, the numbers is declining on a month-on-month basis. So it won't be long before the J&K is rid of the terrorists. But as I said, the longer task, the challenge still lies is winning the hearts and minds of the people, and is a long-term task. That's not going to happen at a short notice or in short time.
Now, you listed quite a few massacres,
Yes,
almost 2 pages of massacres.
yes, there
Now,
were
all
quite a few
this,
massacres in the 90s. Yeah,
yeah, all these are cremations done, no burials, right? Do you have cemeteries and all?
There are symmetries. These would have been cremations, but at that time, even there were not enough people to cremate them. Also, you see, there were instances when people were forbidden to touch the bodies, but somebody or the other finally managed. They were cremated.
So this will go unnoticed, right? Other than making
It's
presentation
it's
or
it's recorded. There are records available.
yeah, physically you can't see anything, right?
You can't see
Right,
physically nothing. It's gone. Happened 15, 20 years back, and no cases
right.
filed, no FIRs registered that time. No one.
Like we see Jallianwala Bagh, when you visit that place,
Yes,
there is
yes.
no such thing here to go and then
That's
visit these
why that's
cemeteries.
that's why one of the points which I've been highlighting is one needs to create a sort of a museum where these should be recorded for posterity. At least people know, and once they know, then you can, you can that's kind of part of education, so that you prevent anything like this happening in future. Not only in J&K, in any other part of India.
To some extent, the Kashmiri files did that, right?
Yes, Kashmir File. Yes, Kashmir File is also a recorded record now, which will remain.
And you showed one slide. Why that came from Joburg? There's a
Sorry.
statistics, Johannesburg.
Johannesburg, consulate
Why?
of India. I don't know. I found it somewhere. I received it, so it was probably in some discussion they must have disclosed this. It's a data from India only, and it sort of corroborates with what's happening there.
Nothing you showed is classified information, right?
Uh, I I
There's quite a few like organization chart.
oh, you mean the disinformation lab
Yeah,
report?
you showed quite a
Lobbying.
few photographs.
There is a report which is available, and from there is this data about various lobbying organizations which supported by Pakistan. In fact, it also says that initially the center was Saudi Arabia, but now it has moved to Turkey. Some of them are
Turkey.
closed offices, and now they're operating from Turkey. Even Ghulam Nabi Fai, his organization, is now operating from Turkey. So the center of this drive, which once upon a time in the 80s was Saudi Arabia, maybe even 90s, but now it has shifted to Turkey.
Now you listed several organizations, obviously connected with Pakistan or terror groups.
Yes.
What was the Pandit community doing? The reason I'm saying this is New York Times always writes Hindu militants.
Hmm.
Where is the militancy from Hindus here? There is no such outfit from Hindus,
It is
right?
none. Yes, it's all rubbish because Hindus are basically not a militant or a militant community at all. See, secularism is naturally part of Hinduism. Hinduism in itself is secular. Has always welcomed any religions into its fold. Where we know, for example, Parsis came here, welcomed here. So many others people came, they were welcomed here. It's not that it was not an expansionist religion. So as a result, there is no terrorist organization or violence has never been a part of the thought process. So it's all part of propaganda or
So other than you have global diaspora, and then Kashmiri Pandit Samaj, these are the main organizations totally committed to rehabilitation or Kashmiri Pandit
see,
causes.
these are not all. Basically, what happened is because since the migration of some sort had been happening for years, so these were social cultural organizations trying to retain the
Culture.
identity. Like for example, I mean Kashmiri Pandit Association Bombay, which is a 70-year-old organization.
Oh yeah,
Started
sure.
it started by less than 100 people who had settled down here. Okay, now post 90, the number of people crossed 3,000. Otherwise, and what was the basic? It was basically a social cultural organization, just having festivals, rituals, meeting together, and trying to retain the identity and keep the language going. Those attempts are still there. Now, only one or two, or few organizations which are working on the political aspects or the resettlement. Otherwise, most of them are social, cultural. The diaspora is working at sort of looking at how to go back.
Now this fake narratives, what you
Yes.
mentioned about, that must have come down, right? Almost
As of now, yes,
non-existent.
it's not. The last one I heard was in May when this Kashmir after Kashmir Files, when Kashmir Files was released. It seemed to hit probably some sensitive chord somewhere because suddenly one noticed everyone in Kashmir, from Kashmir, including Mr. Farooq Abdullah, and right down to the sort of fishermen on the Dal Lake, saying the same thing, that things had become normal. Now, after this movie, again there is terrorist activity because there were some random targeted killings that time, and they would blame it on Kashmir Files, and they say ban this movie. Whereas this movie had nothing to do with that. But I was listening to one former general of Kashmir, Atta Hussain Hasnan. According to him, he says basically overall in Muslims are scared after watching that movie because they think they get a feeling they'll be blamed for this. So he said it's
No
not only
such
in
thing
Kashmir, it's
happened,
everywhere.
right?
No
No
such
such
thing.
thing
It's just a
happens.
it's a psychology probably. He was saying that perhaps that's what is happening. There is a fear among them that they will be blamed for this.
And
So
Singapore banned the movie.
Singapore banned the movie because there, as I said, there are some lobbies which made noise
Yes,
everywhere. Many other countries had put it on the even New Zealand had stopped it release for some time. Then they released it. Singapore didn't release it.
very good. No, it was very well done presentation, and as I mentioned to you, most of the Kashmiri Pandits have all this in their fingertips,
Yeah, because
right? This is really
yes,
amazing.
many of them actually those who actually moved out in that 1990, they are the ones who find it difficult to forget. You see, there are two types of thoughts. Some people, though a small minority, say that we should forget and move back. But I find large number are not able to forget it. A large number of those who actually faced the exodus in 1990, they're not able to forget it. I've interacted with many of them, but the wounds are very deep.
Yes, Ramesh Raina, who appeared in our program, he was narrating that the scary moments, how
He
he managed to
yes,
escape,
he was part of the he suffered that exodus in 1990. He was there. He moved in 1990 from
how he
yes,
came, with his wife in a Maruti car. That
yeah.
must have been really very, very scary.
Yeah,
And
it was
I remember talking to a few Kashmiri Pandits during my visit. I think Ganju or somebody. He was narrating how the terrorists appeared in front and said, "He'll kill you."
mm. No, yeah, true. These
Those
things
are
happen.
very scary moments. I hope normalcy returns soon. And
See,
when is your visit?
that is a big change one can see because in the 90s you would find terrorists on the road showing AK-47s in the air, firing in the air anytime, knowing fully well that there's no one stop them, and there were frequent exchange of fire with the police or with the army. That era is gone. Now you don't see that. Now you see hit and trial. kind of killings.
Stone throwing.
Stone throwing is also over. Stone
Also
throwing that
gone.
happened between 2016 around that time. That's also now gone because that was all paid. That was all paid through that money which was coming from abroad. And
I see a comment. We can forgive them, but we'll never forget it as long as we love.
must be we live.
We live. So thank you so much for your time and wonderful presentation. People who are watching Krishen Kemmu's program today, please go back 2 weeks earlier. That was his first presentation, where he covered quite a lot from the prehistoric days of Kashmir and touched a little bit of religious aspects too. So thank you, sir, and please come back to
Thank
us
you.
and any updates you have. When was
Yes,
your
okay.
visit to Kashmir last?
I visited in May. And
Oh,
that is when I personally found this narrative in the air about Kashmir Files movie. Everyone was talking. Things had become normal, but now because of this movie, again,
no, but I feel very sorry to feel bad hearing from Pandits saying that they have not been there for 10, 15 years.
yes, they're not being. There are many people actually felt that they will never go back. There was this, the hurt was so much they didn't feel like going back. And then there was also this feeling that if we go back, let's say as a tourist, and you spend some money, you don't know how much of that actually goes back to feed the terrorism. So that was also because it was so open that one didn't know who is part of the movement, who is part of this terrorist activity, who is not, because it all got
Yes.
merged. Every In the 90s, almost everyone was involved. See, in 90s, like it was, the situation was such in early or in 1990 or thereabouts. In the next couple of years, one didn't see India there. The traces were not visible. You wouldn't see a tricolor. You wouldn't see, and it was not only Kashmiri Hindus, even the Muslims who would speak for India were the targets.
Very good.
That is a major change in the scenario.
We will have one more update from you once after a couple of weeks. We are going to continue this program. This is gaining traction. Actually, your program was viewed 700 or 800 views I could see in different
Oh,
channels.
wonderful.
That was really very nice. Even though it was long, people viewed all your presentation slides. Thank you, sir. And Dhanyavad ji, and we'll stay in touch.
Thank you very much. My compliments. You are doing a wonderful job of this on this subject. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, viewers. Our subscription is also going up slowly, and we hope to see more and more viewers joining us as we have many more presentations coming along. And we hope to see you every Saturday, same time. And we thank Kanji Mutt channels, YouTube and Facebook, and our Dinamalar, India's leading Tamil newspaper, giving great coverage of our programs week after week. And not to forget VDSP for all the streaming support. Till we meet next Saturday, 7 p.m. Jai Jai Shankara, Hare Shankara.